Well, Kent Adams here, and welcome to Experts at EWU. This is a series that we try to, at least monthly, bring in one of the great professors, and I say that because I've been fortunate enough to host most of the programs, and I learned so much, and so you're going to have to stick with us today and learn something, okay? And it'll be fun. It'll be fun, and I especially love this one because it kind of encompasses what we've done in the last 5 years now, is to create a business and grow it. And Bruce Teague,
yeah.
all right, I got it right, is, you've got so many PhDs and titles after your name. Let's just start with some of the basics. Where did you go to school?
Well, I'll start out simple. I jumped around the country a little
Did
bit
you?
early on.
Yeah, I've heard that from other people too, yeah.
I actually started out at Wazoo.
Did you really? Okay.
And then I ended up going down to Florida State to try to swim down there. And
okay.
I finished at Western Washington University.
Well, you did bounce around.
I did. I saw a little bit of the country along the way. And then Arizona State for an MBA.
Okay.
And then a master's and a couple of PhDs at Penn, at Wharton.
A couple of PhDs. So you really do have a couple of PhDs.
Yeah, it was they had an alternative where you could do a dual PhD, two tracks at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So
wow.
yeah, I did that.
Yeah. I'll have to admit I was not a great high school student or college student, okay? I can't do enough absorbing and learning new things now at my life in my 70s. And people, well, would you want to go back to school? No, I have all the experts come in. I'm in the best spot, okay? And so, what is your official job out at Eastern?
Again, that's an interesting question. I have
the feeling it's going to be a long list of things.
I have a couple of official jobs. I am a professor of entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And I've built that program up. I am also the founding director of our Center for Entrepreneurship, which basically deals with all of the co-curricular sides of our campus.
Okay.
And then I'm also the chair of the Department of Management, so I get to play administrator part of the time.
Oh, that's all?
That's all.
Yeah. Now you're doing most of your teaching, most of your work online, I assume, today, these days, right, with COVID and so forth.
Right now, we're pretty much entirely online.
Yeah.
A couple of lab courses
have
been given permission, but for the most part, we've gone pretty safe with it, taking it pretty seriously.
I'm going to guess you missed that one-on-one and small group interaction with the students right there instead of on a screen, right?
Oh, very much. I mean, I've tried to replicate as much of that as I can in the Zoom environment, tried to do some one-on-ones working on their businesses, but it's not the same as being in the classroom where you can throw things up on the whiteboard and move things around and really kind of bat ideas back and forth.
And see the lights go off,
Yes.
in the students and so forth. What's it like with today's students? Now, you started in 2006 at Eastern, right? So you've been there for a few years, and you've got a few accomplishments, too. And we'll talk about some of the awards because your department out there has done quite well. But tell me about some of what's going on and what you see in the students today out there.
You know, I find today's students to be really exciting to work with.
Really? Because we hear a lot of negative things out there, today's generations and so forth.
But what I find with this generation of students, this group of students, is they truly care about making a difference in the world. And to me, entrepreneurship is about win-win relationships with the world, how we can make things better. They truly care about that. And when you start eliminating the barriers that they perceive for themselves, and a lot of it's perception.
Yes.
But as you start eliminating those barriers,
I can't do that, or it'll take me years, or whatever it might be, right?
Exactly. Yeah. They surprise you every single time you turn around. I mean, none of this has gone the way I expected, and it's always because they have so far exceeded anything I imagined they would do. Our first year, We started in 2016.
Okay.
And our very first year, we had what at that point was just the Eagle's Nest pitch competition. So just a $5,000 prize to get ideas generating.
Okay.
I really thought we were going to have doggy daycares and coffee shops and things like that.
Okay.
Our winners, one of our top two was a Bluetooth attached phone case for emergency safety, so that for women that were wandering around, so they could activate safety calls without triggering the phone and indicating that they were calling for help. And we had a young man, our first graduate of the program ever. He had served in the military, and he had suffered some challenges in returning and integrating socially.
Sure.
And he developed a business plan around helping veterans return and kind of rebalance through fitness, but also by bringing in some of the familiar patterns of their military life.
Right.
And I just never
so
know
they
which
feel
direction.
more comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's these students. I mean, every time I turn around, they're doing something I just never would have imagined. And so it's hard not to be excited about them.
Have some of these gone on to be practical for good businesses too?
Yeah, in fact, out of last year, so now we're up to a $40,000 startup challenge.
Oh, okay.
That proceeds through 4 levels. So a lot can start out. We put most of our resources into the best businesses of the year, and we get them a lot of mentoring from members of the community. But last year, we have 5 businesses that launched out of last year. 2 of them formed corporations. One has a patent filed with one of our local law firms, helping them on that. Another owns the exclusive license on a patented technology out of Wazoo. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. And it's fun to see success, and fun to see the success here in the, I'm going to say the Spokane area, inland Northwest, because it's more than just Spokane and so forth. Your department and what you work on has received some awards, and in pretty good company, right? Tell me about those.
It's been an exciting year for us. When we started this process, one of my aspirations was to develop a nationally, internationally recognized program to shoot for the stars.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that even if you don't reach those audacious goals, you'll always accomplish more than you ever would have not shooting for them.
The process is a good one to go through, right?
Exactly. Oh, it causes you to think bigger.
Yeah.
And so when we started out, I set my sights on the United States Association of Small Business and Entrepreneurship Top Emerging Program Award. And this last year, we were fortunate enough to receive that. We followed Florida State, and we joined several of the top entrepreneurship programs in the world in holding that award.
Wow.
And we also pursued the top emerging, or the Outstanding Emerging Center as well in parallel through the Global Consortium of Entrepreneurship Centers. And somehow we managed to pull off both. That makes us one of only 2 universities in the world to hold both trophies together.
I've got to ask the question, how long did it take you to be able to spell entrepreneur?
I'm still working on it, I think.
Does it make you slow down as you're doing it? Put it in the computer and so forth?
It's funny. Now, I think that because I've typed it like millions of times, it's pretty automatic now.
It comes up,
I can tell you I tripped over it a few times early on.
Yeah. Well, I still do a little bit, but talk about the programs that you have there, because you've got several different programs, and sounds like I should have entered what I'm doing here and gone to school at EWU, right?
You would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
We love what you're doing.
Yeah.
When we started out, I'm a firm believer that anybody who walks onto our campus has the potential to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And every discipline, every background, there's different kinds of entrepreneur. And so it was very important that we create support for anybody on campus, not just a narrowly defined group of students who chose the right degree.
Right.
And so in terms of degrees, we now have a business bachelor's in entrepreneurship, so a traditional
really? Okay.
entrepreneurship degree.
Good.
But the core of that degree is used to build interdisciplinary programs across campus.
Okay.
And so we have a music and technology entrepreneurship degree program that is based out of music, but they
Wow.
attach to our same entrepreneurship training.
Wow.
We have entrepreneurial communications, and we have entrepreneurial analytics.
And as you say these, I can think of how that can be successful in terms of those disciplines out there. If it's communications, if it's music, there are certain things that you can do out there to establish a business or consult with or whatever. That's fantastic.
Well, and we've started out intentionally shooting for 3 wins for our students.
Okay.
Okay, so one of them is obviously that they can graduate and start their businesses. They can get them going
Okay.
and launch. But the second is the largest area of growth for employment in our economy is what the government titles Phase 2 companies.
Okay.
Those are those capital raising growth companies.
Yeah.
But to go in and join one of those companies, you really have to be able to create value. You have
Yeah.
to be entrepreneurial,
Yes.
even if you aren't the entrepreneur.
Yes.
And so when you look at programs like our entrepreneurial communications and entrepreneurial analytics, although they can go out and start businesses, absolutely, we're really looking at them as students who are trained to go out to these Phase 2 growth companies
Right.
and help them reach that next level.
Right.
Which
Right.
I think is really exciting
The companies can go, I need you.
Exactly.
I need your expertise,
Yes.
and so forth. And then you become a part of that growth and so forth. Wow. I think that's, I think it's terrific. Tell me about where you are in terms of the discipline at EWU. Now, you're down at the Catalyst building. Are you doing a lot from there now? Is that theoretically, if you were open, is that going to be more of the center downtown than the campus out in Cheney, or where do you think things are going?
I think that Catalyst is going to be exactly that. It's going to be a catalyst in many ways. One is bringing entrepreneurship together with our STEM disciplines,
Yes.
which brings
Yes.
entrepreneurship and innovation together. That's going to be huge for us, and that's going to take place down here. It's also a great place for connecting us to all of those community partners that have been so supportive, all
Yeah.
of the community experts and mentors.
Yes, right.
That said, some of our programming, like music and technology, communications, art, hopefully, some of the others, they are going to remain out on the main campus, and
Right.
so we will remain connected and delivering out there
Yeah.
as well. But I think that the Catalyst will be kind of the heartbeat of the thing.
Well, we live streamed the virtual grand opening down there, and I was pleasantly surprised that we had just on our station, not to mention EWU putting it out and so forth, we had something like 4,500 people that watched either live or within the next couple of days. And someone said, "Are you surprised?" And I said, "Not really, because I'll bet the heart of the business community was watching, because they now have a place that they can visually go, park, eventually go in and do things together. And it's connected with the footbridge to the rest of the campus downtown and so forth. And what a great location."
Well, and in our program in particular, we have brought in so many community members to work with
Yes.
the students, and I'll tell you more about our startup challenge
Okay.
in a little bit, but that's a big area where we bring and connect
Right.
the,
And it's
the
easy
community.
for the business community to get there versus Eastern.
Exactly.
Out in Cheney. And I
Exactly.
get that, and especially with some weather and so forth at certain times of the year. And it's nothing to get from downtown or the valley, the
Right.
businesses that are out there or wherever it may be, to get to the location next to the university district.
Well, and one of the realities of university life, and this is true at most universities, is that universities are organized to divide students into specialized little areas.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurship doesn't work that way.
No.
It works best when they're mixing together and getting new ideas.
Wow.
And so bringing our STEM students and our entrepreneurship students together in one place where we can do some of our co-curricular programming and get them interacting with one another, that's going to be fabulous.
Yeah. How is this going to help our wider community? And yes, we can talk about it's good for Eastern and it's good for this startup and so forth, but how does that provide for Spokane and the inland Northwest, what you're doing now and for the future? Can you help maybe the person who isn't the entrepreneur or who may not even want to be, but and sitting out there going, what does this mean for me?
you know, I think we're seeing this in Spokane right now. This is a dynamic time in our entrepreneurial ecosystem. Spokane is thriving as a hub for new business creation. And I think that that's an area that we're really going to excel. But I think when you look at the United States within the global economy, our future is as a leader in the innovation economy. We are no longer going to be the low-cost manufacturing producer.
Right.
That's not going to be where our jobs are. I think that the people who are really thriving are going to be people who contribute to leading that innovation economy.
Yeah.
And the students that we're developing through our curricular programs, but also through our co-curricular activities,
Right.
are students who, whether they become entrepreneurs or not, are learning to think entrepreneurially.
Yeah.
They're learning to think about creating value. They're learning to build positive relationships, and they're learning how to contribute to that world to make a difference. I think that's so we're contributing employees, we're contributing new businesses.
Right.
I think on multiple levels we're fueling. And when you look at the growth of Spokane moving forward,
Yes.
a big part of it is going to be attracting those growth businesses to this area to build their businesses here. And if we're going to get them to come, they have to believe that there's a workforce coming out that they can tap into to help those companies grow. We've had some great stories already. Spiceology is certainly
Yes.
a hot story right now. And so I think along with fueling business growth at all of the different levels, that we're also fueling that employment base where, and I think that's one of the areas where the awards are handy as well. They grant a real external legitimacy that when companies come here, they know that there's that base of employment,
Yeah.
that we've got those students that are going to come in and make that difference for us.
Yeah, and bottom line is, I think back to when my kids were in junior high and high school, and this goes back a few years, and I remember my son, who's now a civilian firefighter out at Fairchild, saying, "Well, Dad, I think I'm going to have to go to Seattle or somewhere else." To get, in fact, I thought about it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if I'm going to, this is 30 some years ago or more now, if I'm going to really advance, I don't see it where I'm working, and I see it in the bigger cities, okay?
Right.
Now the bigger cities are finding people leaving the bigger cities for a Spokane, for a Boise, for other areas. And I think it comes down to jobs, and one of the things we've learned this year is that we don't have to go in to and be sitting at a desk from 8 until 5. Maybe we want to go in once in a while, but we can still do things other places.
Well, I think that there's a couple of things there as well. I think you're exactly right. I think one of the advantages that our area has right now is that we have an airport that's very quick to get in and out of.
Yes.
That you can
Yes.
fly directly into San Francisco, and that's creating a connection in and of itself.
Yes.
But you said something just a minute ago that really strikes a chord with me, because I have two young daughters. I have
Okay.
a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. And when we moved here in 2006,
Yeah.
I would have described Spokane as a fabulous place to raise a family.
Yes.
But a place where my daughters needed to go out into the world to make their lives.
Yes. Yes.
And now I see Spokane as a place where they may go out into the world, but this is a place that they can make their lives.
And they can create jobs, they can create businesses, you're absolutely right. And I remember having those conversations with my kids. I remember having those conversations with community members over the years and so forth. And you look at the successes that we've had Chip on, and others that have done things. And I love it. Again, it's the core of what we try to do is the small businesses and so forth. Some of them have grown well past being working out of the garage. And isn't that wonderful? Because they're employing people and helping. You look at, I'm trying to think of the name of the company. I should know. What's the company, Vinny, that changed over to sanitizer during the Dry Fly.
Yeah. Oh, right. I remember that story.
We
Yes.
had him here that day, and then later that day, he's announcing he's switching things. Okay, I mean, I love those stories, and Spiceology that's had to look at. In fact, we had them in just before COVID, and they were talking about it's mainly the restaurant industry and all that. That's our market, Kent. Well, they've shifted.
Yep.
Okay, they had to know enough internally and have the expertise to ask the right questions of themselves and others. Can we market this to homeowners and people who are cooking at home and so forth? And you look at, I've said this so many times, my staff will roll their eyes. Yeah, we're a city, we're a county, we're a metropolitan area, we're still a town. And people will step up. If you ask somebody to come in to speak to your class, they'll say yes. When do you want me? If you ask a competitor to help another one that wants to start up, they'll go over and help them. And you don't find that without really working hard for it in a Los Angeles or San Francisco. You can belong to groups and so forth, and you might sit at a lunch table with somebody, but that's it, okay? That's not the attitude here. Look at how Rick Clark and some of the others are doing their things to help restaurants stay open. You know, he's had a week the other day raised over $7,000 to go to restaurants and help them serve the community and so forth. And people are stepping up. I mean,
well, and Darby McLean at Spiceology is one of my board members.
Yeah, okay.
And an EWU alum. And we've had a number of conversations about how they've pivoted in response to COVID.
Yes.
And in fact, she'll be speaking to my winter course about that topic, among others. We've got a lot of great stories about companies, businesses that have pivoted, and they've not only survived, but they've thrived. I mean, the grain shed down here with Sean Thompson, or Duffy Thompson, their business has taken off. It's exploded at a time when you would have thought that kind of business would struggle.
Yeah.
And we've got stories like that all over the community. You're right, Spiceology has exploded on the consumer side of the business. And yet the restaurant side of the business won't go away. They just now have this whole new side that they've found. And you are right about the collaborative nature of this community. Yeah. And it's true of the universities too.
Yes.
All of our entrepreneurship programs, I work so closely with people like Dan Stewart over at Gonzaga and Marie Mays down at Wazoo. And I mean, all of the different universities.
It's family, isn't it?
Everybody is so supportive. And from the beginning, I mean, George down at University of Idaho, there hasn't been a single person who hasn't been willing to help out when they were needed. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, we're still that town. I love it. Yeah, I love it. And I love that your daughters, age 12 and 10, now you know they can have a future here.
Yes. Okay,
and I think that's terrific. You mentioned contests and things like that. Let's talk about that. Tell me about it.
As I said, part of our goal is to support every student on campus. And not every student can take a degree specifically, but we believe in students learning through doing.
Yes.
You've got to practice this. You can't just read about it. And so we've got a lot of our co-curricular activities. And we've had our Technology Commercialization Academy, where students have worked with real IP to develop commercialization plans and launch businesses. But probably our biggest activity on campus is the $40,000 Startup Challenge.
Yeah.
And that works in 4 stages. I borrowed that idea from American Ninja Warrior, if you're familiar with the show. When they finish in the finales, they go through 4 competitive stages. But what that does is in the first stage, it allows a lot of students to try out ideas and get feedback. Yeah. And in a normal face-to-face, we're doing it virtually this year, but in a normal face-to-face, that's our speed dating round, where we've got people from all over the community. Last year, we had 62 members of the community in, entrepreneurs, investors, lawyers, bankers, etc. And the student teams rotate through 9 of those different judges, and they give their elevator pitches. Okay. They spend about 2 minutes giving an elevator pitch, but then they get to have a 7-minute conversation where that person gives them their input on the idea. The top, traditionally 20 of those, move on to our stage 2. Okay. And that gives them a few weeks to develop the product or service idea further. But there's a trade show format. Now they've got to attract eyeballs. The judges are wandering around. They've got a table. They can set up more. They can develop more. Yeah. But now they've got to actually grab people's attention.
Did someone really stop and talk to you?
Exactly.
Did they ask questions? Did they understand what you were doing? All of those.
And there we have 30 or 40 members of the community that are playing that role. The top 10 from that group automatically advances to our rounds 3 and 4. Okay. But at that stage, each team gets to submit a funding proposal for $2,500 in development funding that they can use to prepare for stage 3 to develop the businesses forward.
Yeah.
Then we get to stage 3, which this year will take place in mid-May.
Okay.
And that is more of a Shark Tank style event.
Okay.
So,
I love that.
And traditionally we do that out on the main campus in Showalter Auditorium, and it's the full theatrical display. But there we bring in investment caliber judges, and they're giving the full pitch. And we've got about $17,500 just in prize money for that part.
Good. Okay.
And then on top of that, we have stage 4, which is our Catalyst Prize, and that's the top business of the year. Gets an additional $10,000 in seed funding to get that business going.
Wow.
So last year's winner was a pair of guys that started a company called Micro Malt House, and they've incorporated, and they're working on growth right now. They're the ones that filed for patent. They ended up with $16,500 towards starting that business up.
Yeah.
And this year, on top of that, we learn every year. We learn and adapt. One of the things we learned last year was just because you give somebody $16,500 doesn't mean they know what to do with it right away.
Yeah.
And so this year we're actually going to give them a mini board to start off with. It's going to be experts from the community and different experts that apply to that business. And we're going to give them at least 3 meetings with that board. It's their chance to win them over, bring them on.
Yes.
But they're also going to have people that can say, look, I've been there. This is what you do next.
Yeah, well, let's not make as many mistakes. So you're still going to make mistakes, okay?
Sure.
That's part of the learning process. I would have loved to have had some of that when I started here. It's like I told the story. I got free space to rent. Thank you to Stacy Coles at the Spokesman Review. He gave us what was going to be 6 months, ended up being 16 months. And I had one sponsor who had known me for a while at $200 a month when probably very few people were listening because we were just doing audio. And that paid my Comcast bill because we were audio on the air, if you will, and so forth. And you start out with nothing in your pocket. And even if you have $16,000, how do you best invest that?
Exactly.
And so I think that's terrific, and it's good to have those mentors, the board members around and so forth. When you get back to doing some of that where we can come film, can we come film?
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love that.
I think it would be really good to do that, and maybe I'd even get invited to be on the first level to listen in to some of the pitches. And
that
so
would be
forth.
fantastic.
Yeah, because I might roll my eyes going, I've been there, done that. I might ask a couple of questions that I wish people had asked me. I started out, though, when I did the radio over the internet with Wayne Williams. You probably know who he is. He's second generation Telect. And he was just really honest with me, Kent, because I was doing some things over the air by time and so forth. And he said, get out of the 50s and 60s. It's not AM and FM radio anymore. And I asked the question, well, then what is it? I kind of knew where I was going to be going with that question. And he mentored me through literally for about 4 months and said, go launch it. All you need to know.
Well, and that's one of the fun things about bringing the community members in. I think one of the things we do that's different, a lot of the competitions in the area, you set up a panel of judges, you sit at a distance, you kind of observe and you judge.
Right.
But you don't get to have that one-on-one conversation where you really kind of bat things back and forth. And part of the goal of that first round is to give lots of students a chance to participate and toss their ideas out there.
Yes.
And some of them are really bad ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them are just dumb.
Yeah.
Some of them are poorly thought through. Some of them are already done.
Yes.
But some of them are really developable.
You can see it generating there, can't you?
Every year we end up with something cool. And that's one of the nice things is you get, for instance, if you come in with our first round, you'll get to meet 9 of these teams.
Yes.
And so odds are pretty good that you're going to meet a few that are really
They'll go
good,
on to the next level.
and a few that need to be developed. But the real goal, I would love to see freshmen come in and try this out.
Yeah.
Come in with a bad idea.
Yeah.
That's fine. But learn more about what makes a good idea.
Yeah.
And by the time they're juniors, they're talking about ideas differently.
Yeah, and they're asking the questions now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And when you talk about this has been a strange year, I compare us a lot, although we shouldn't, to broadcast TV and so forth, because a lot of the public does. And it's been a tough year for local TV, as it has across the country, where for about 3 months there, and a little bit more, radio in town is even worse, lost about 40% of their revenues. That's a hard hit to, the good news for us is that we did not lose one sponsor.
Oh, wow.
That was telling to us that those that have been with us for a while loved us. The other side of that coin was, though, that we had the best sales 2 months in 10 days just before everything shut down. And the story I tell a lot is we had Rain Man Rain Gutters who wanted to, on the 4th or so or 5th of March, wanted to launch with us by April 1st. Well, by the 10th or 15th or whatever it was of March, he couldn't go out except to fix problems, because they home improvement kinds of things couldn't do anything, and said, I got to put it off. Well, he came on in the middle of May, and some others are coming on now and so forth, so we're gaining it back. But that told me if we can weather the COVID-19, that yeah, maybe we actually have something here. And we're going into the New Year's, we're going to be updating our sets here. We've got sold a brand new program this morning that will launch in February, and new sponsors coming on. And so it's kind of like the endurance race. I guess I'm old enough to know if you stick with something, it might happen, and that's what's happening. And I think it's good for the community, because yes, the local news is good, and you get an overview, but some people want a little more information. Not everybody, and we're on the platform where people want quick and dirty. I get that. But when we've been moving some of our programs from 1,000 views to 5,000 to 10,000 views within a week after. The 10,000 is better than any local TV news here in town.
Well,
so it can happen if you stick with it.
Well, and one of the things I love about listening to your story
Yeah.
is your startup story is exactly the way that we teach our students
Yeah.
to start up. You've got to get that proof of concept.
Yeah.
I always tell people that your initial idea isn't the end of it; it's the start of your search. And from that point on, you're playing hot and cold with the world. Like the kids game.
Yep.
And your goal is to find that combination that's a successful business that works, that matters to people, as quickly and inexpensively as possible. And you're trying to get that feedback from the world. And everything you're describing is parallel to that.
Yeah.
So this spring we'll still be online, but perhaps I can get you to come in and speak to the class, and, you and I can have a conversation going the other direction.
And you're right. Little when I started this out, did I ever envision it being video. Okay, it was going to all be audio. And that's where I was going to go with it. I had retired a couple years before. You can see I failed at that. And then one day I had this vision. Well, I see on radio shows they put these little cameras up, and let's do that. And my tech person at the time rolled his eyes, rightfully so. So we got a couple and we did that. We launched live video on Periscope because Facebook wasn't taking live video. So we were actually ahead of them by 3.5 months before Facebook took it. Now most of our views come from Facebook, a lot on YouTube and so forth. Little did I expect 5 years ago that I would be in an actual TV studio, 1,000 square foot TV studio. And here we are. And that was not the original plan. It just wasn't. I like radio better because I have a face for radio, number one, and it was just more comfortable, to do that. I've had to learn that, okay, the camera's watching. I actually don't pay much attention to that fact anymore because I get to have good conversations with good people, and I learn so much. I hope my viewer does too, and that's really what counts.
Well, and you just made a really interesting comment that really strikes a chord with me. You mentioned good people.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite things about Spokane is we have so many really good people that care about making this community better.
Yes.
And my job brings me into contact with a lot of those people.
Yeah.
It's been one of the most fortunate aspects of doing this.
Yeah. I love this town. It's been my town for 44 plus years. I started off at the Chamber of Commerce, so I got to know the business community. So much of what I've done over the years has been business related, and so forth. And I thought when I wanted to start the radio over the internet, it's going to be business related, because I know people, and they'll all say, yeah, I'll come on your show, even when you have 10 people listening, okay? In fact, I was asked one time, how do you get the level of, and this is back when we were just doing audio, how do you get the level of people that you do to come in? And it was nothing more than the fact that I've known them for 20 or 30 years, and they trusted me,
Right.
and they were helping me and paying me back for things we had done by, okay, I know you're not going to have big numbers, Ken, but I'm willing to come in and have 20 minutes with you here, and so forth. And that didn't hurt us a bit. And so this community has been good to me, been good to my family. It is being good to your family.
Yes.
It's certainly in the future as your kids grow older and so forth. So yes, let's just keep hauling away at creating jobs. And that's what it really is when it comes
Really is.
down to. It really is. And we've done a lot here to help the restaurants and so forth. We're launching a couple new We're Opens going around to the restaurants and that sort of thing that our viewers will see in the next few days and so forth. So again, that's the heart and soul of our community. And I've talked to too many small business people, especially restaurant owners, that have water in their eyes, oh, it's nothing, it's just a cold, kind of thing, that I know what they're going through. And I'm so pleased to see the community step up and help. And we are that hometown.
Right.
So, Bruce, thank you for all that you're doing. And
thank you.
yeah, let's have you back here too, because again, this is the heart and soul of what we do. And maybe bring a student or something.
I would love
Can
that.
we do
And
that?
I
Because-
have just the student.
Okay.
I've got a student I work very closely with
Yeah.
that has done all sorts of amazing things.
Yeah.
He's a great story.
I love that.
Great
When I tell people to bring their student in and so forth, they almost always have somebody in mind.
Well,
There's that one student that really stands out, isn't there?
Well, and we've got so many of those great stories, but I've got one in particular
Okay.
that he's just one of those special stories. He has taken every advantage on campus, and what's great is he's not an entrepreneurship student.
Oh.
He's a psychology student, but he's starting up one of our top businesses. He's been in the Startup Challenge a couple of years. He's president of our CEO. I mean, he has taken every opportunity out there, and he is just going gangbusters. He's one of my favorite stories.
Okay.
Competed in an international competition with his business because he made finals. So, yeah, no, I would love to do that.
So after Christmas, as we get into getting close to January, email me and let's set up a time to have you and him come on and talk about it.
Will do.
I think that would be so fun, because I'd like to learn some things too. And it's time to recognize some of these young people for what they're doing. We started a program that lasted about 3 years called Youth Spotlight, because Kent got tired of seeing the stories in the front page of the newspaper that were negative about our youth. And we've got them doing some really good things. And so here's somebody who's going to go places.
Well, and it goes back to where we started this conversation. When I was first approached to start this program,
Yes.
which was in 2014, after I'd returned from Copenhagen Business School, where I'd been working for a year, I didn't know what to expect from our students.
Yeah.
But for all of the negative stories that are out there,
Yeah.
there are so many incredible positive stories. And
Yeah.
this generation of kids, they want to make a difference.
Yeah.
And they're willing to put energy into things that matter.
Yeah.
They're not willing to put energy into things that are just kind of there.
Yeah.
But if it matters, and I have been inspired every day working
Yeah.
with them.
Well, let's bring one of those inspirational kids in. I call them kids because if you're
At
under
my age-
if you're under 50, you're a kid to me. Okay.
At my
Yeah.
age, no disrespect intended. They
No.
are incredibly young adults, but it's a long ways down at this point.
Yeah. And people ask me, how do you do what you do, and meaning all the electronics and so forth? My simple answer, and they'll laugh again at me, is I have people under 30 that work here. Okay.
That's my answer in the center too.
Yeah. I mean, it really does help. Okay.
And occasionally my daughters come explain them to me.
Okay. I remember Vinny, who's on the other side of the computer over there, doing this program, telling me about Zoom. There's this new program out, Kenton. This is back in January. Little did I know I'd be using it so much come March, right?
Sure.
Yeah, and I tell that story to people, and they go, "Me too," or "Kent, I hadn't even heard of it. Now I'm proficient in it." So yeah, it's a changing world. I hope for the better when we have young people coming up like you're teaching and so forth. I'm very hopeful. So off we go. Bruce, thank you very much.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Keep up the good work, okay?
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Experts at EWU. I love these programs, all right? See you next time.